Good morning to you, my friends, wherever you may be in the world today. Alan Clements here from Santa Monica, California. June 9th, 2021. Welcome to this shared space. Thank you from my heart for tuning in and showing up. Today is the third part and the final part of a talk that I've been giving for the last couple of days titled UFOs, Deities, 5 MEO-DMT, Devas, Psychic Powers, Multi-Dimensionality, Dhamma, and Consciousness. Okay. UFOs, Deities, 5 MEO, DMT, Devas, Psychic Powers, Multidimensionality, Dhamma, the Buddhist Pali word for the experiential engagement in present time presence that doesn't negate the past or the future, the inclusivity of the spectrum of phenomenology at the six senses, the mind door being the sixth sense, the Dhamma, the study of the lawfulness of causality in the moment through the sense doors, including states of mind, thoughts, and emotions, and studying them through the felt knowingness, if you will, the mindful intelligence of their unique characteristics. Again, stating the obvious, compassion has a texture. When felt, we feel motivated to ascend out of the body, out of the mind, but not disappearing, but situating in the heart and mind of another, empathy. That's a unique characteristic of karuna. And you could say the same for the spectrum of other chaitasikas known as SOM, states of mind or states of consciousness. And equally, the study of Dhamma, the felt experiential engagement of the phenomenology of mind and matter at the six sense doors, with the mind being the sixth sense door, consciousness, is their common characteristics, which is so easily overlooked, but ever present if felt. What are they? Anicca, anatta, and dukkha. Anicca, impermanence, evanescence, change. Anatta, the emptiness of self-fixation or centrality to the phenomenology of change. And dukkha, the incessant out-of-controlness of causality and without self. If we identify through the factor of mind known as attachment to change, therefore there is the sensation of Vedana, and it's often unpleasant or known as dukkha, suffering, anicca, anatta, and dukkha. So welcome from my heart to yours. Again, an extemporaneous sharing. I'm on the cusp, or is it the precipice of departure very shortly. From this sacred site here in Santa Monica, a bit of a monastic setting for me, I am thinking and hoping on June 25th, God willing and all things considered, to fly to the island of Maui. It's in process, it's not certain. And the details of that are complex, but I'm trusting. Big concept for me right now is trust. Again, coming back to the theme today, the UFO, the deity, the 5 MEO, the DMT. I want to say that the 5 MEO, the DMT, the psychedelic, I just want to say this, that I feel that the new psychedelic is meditation, the employment of consciousness to feel the environment of consciousness. And that's such a rare vocation to position oneself, so to speak, within the habitat, the environment of consciousness as vocation of presence and being, and the raison d'etre of your life. The study, the felt understanding of this environment called our inner or interiority of our lives. And without the understanding, the vocabulary, the states of mind, the conditions, the memories, and specifically the vocabulary of freedom. Without that, we act through the identification, through the attachments, through the conditions, through the illusions, and pursue non-existent objects as if we are in reality, but we're illusion dancing. And the result of illusion dancing, we know, can either be extreme bliss that's temporary, and when it disappears, we evaporate, so to speak, but the pain is present. Or if it disappears, all of a sudden, where did it go? Called a human life. Death. The phantasm of death. And that's so rad that the Buddha, as I attribute these teachings to this gentleman, that he called his awakening, his enlightenment, the deathless, the cracking of the phantasm of the lie of death. And yes, it's conventional. Here I am, you are, together on this planet, in a global meltdown, death, individual mortality, animals, trees, molecules of life in this evanescent change. But who dies? Pause. I was thinking of this gentleman, I don't know who said it exactly, but a poet in Burma. If there is only 1 minute, he said, left to survive, I want to have a clear conscience even for that minute. There's something in reading that just struck me that was so pure, so beautiful, so urgent. And it's that dimension that informs this mystical or this wonderment that comes often out of the psilocybin, the DMT, the MEO, the enthrallment with states. If there is only 1 minute left to survive, I want to have a clear conscience even for that minute. That's what I mean by Dhamma. The soul of that vocation is clear conscience. And I think that, for me, is the habitat right now that's so vital, so important for me to not only cherish and preserve, but to embody in the intelligence of discerning right thought from wrong thought, right emotions from wrong emotions. I'm not going to negate wrong emotions, but they cause suffering. And right now in my own inner habitat, I don't know about you, but when I play with the psychedelic metaphor, the UFO metaphor, the deity, the psychic power, the sensitivity of consciousness. Pause. Many people are asking, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Where I want to go, I can say it so clearly. I want to occupy a safe, sacred, psychedelicized, tantrified, beautified habitat of transformational awakening. There's a part of me, a large part of me, a growing part of me. Let me just say it this way. Way back, 40 years ago, I left Burma. I was told to leave the country by the dictator. And so I went to Calcutta, then eventually made my way to the island of Sri Lanka. And then eventually from Colombo, the capital, down to a small area called Dodandua. And there I was accepted to move onto a small 5-acre island known as Polgastua, the island hermitage, a sacred space. And quickly, there was no transition for me to adjust. Those of you who know those secret environments, this is so treasured to have had this year there. And I bring it up now because in the most noble form of craving, my monkdom, trans bhikkhuhood, is yearning for this type of Dhamma inhabitation, if you will, of a sacred little oasis island, not just Maui or Bali, but an environment that is so evanescent with the sanctity of silence and beauty. I want to tune out. I say this with all sincerity because I know it's just terrible in juxtaposition to the world and the suffering, the car, the urbanization, the electrification, the work, the money, the tragedies in Burma, in China, in Hong Kong, the prison camps, the gulags, the slavery, the freeways that are filled all around me here in Los Angeles. But if I have a choice, I want to abide in a Deva field. Are you with me? I want to be born into that next incarnation come at the end of June. And all I'm looking for in my own heart, because people are asking me, what are you looking for? What do you want to create? I'm only looking for a month of a Sri Lanka Dodandua Island hermitage, sacred, silent, co-creative space where I can activate my inner Dhamma, my inner Deva, my inner psychic intuitive powers to heal this aorta aneurysm and awaken my deeper paramis and dana and my sila and my meditation, and awaken into the progression of insight and possible wisdom, and to radiate a more unconditional nibbāna field. I want to explore the most subtle, at this point in my life, the craving for Dhamma, bhikkhuhood, sensitivity, noble co-creative silence. I want to tune out shopping, driving. I don't know about you, but I am calling out among my beloved sisters and brothers. Let us create a sacred space. If you have that place in your UFO, Deva, DMT, psychic power, Dhamma, consciousness, heart, co-create, support financially, materially, psychically. Tell your friends to tell your friends to inform your friends. There's a calling on the planet. There's a calling in Alan Clements' heart for a safe, sacred environment just for 1 month where I can live, breathe, and possibly die, if needed, with you in a loose-knit, co-creative, shared space where we can take a temporary oasis from the pandemic, from vaccinations, from COVID, from driving, from flat screens, from phones, from texting, from politics. I want to be in retreat. When I was on that island in Sri Lanka, I was remembering today before the talk. I don't know about you, but when consciousness is more consciously inhabited and you crack through, break through narratives and patterns, just like you would if you were in your normal habitat and you took a moderate dose of psilocybin, or you smoked 25 micrograms or more of DMT, and you go, astounding juxtaposition from normal waking consciousness, as refined as my yogi meditator is, to this heightened sensitivity of mystical exploration and wonderment. And you go, oh my Dhamma God. Right there is where I want to start out. And there we get to explore heightened sensory perception. What is a UFO? Heightened cognitive perception. Heightened existential perception. Accessing the nibbāna, unconditioned gene. Playing in shared fields of heightened intersubjective intelligence of love, compassion, wisdom, freedom, Dhamma. Co-experiencing transcendent dimensions of shared space. On that island 40 years ago, I can hear it in my own ears now. I tuned in for nearly a year to forms of what felt and heard as celestial forms of music, auditory vibrations that were so nuanced. There's no way a human being could create. There was no instrumentation on planet Earth that was so subtle, so nuanced, so complex, so beautiful. You have experienced that, right? Yes, it's a phenomenology of consciousness. Hearing, anicca, anatta, and dukkha. In my mind, then and now, who are these creatures? Who are these deities? A higher dose of the DMT with a small amount of the MDMA, and all of a sudden, with my friends in this co-creative space of intersubjective exploration, we now are encountering each other and not knowing who begins where and who ends there. And all of a sudden we have a shared perception of a deity, a deva. A deva appeared to me in my dream last night. Indeed, a being of splendorous light. And in that inhabiting of that Dhamma radiance, in a second, it dispelled all the darkness of fear and aging and death. And in an instant, there was an awakening. And my heart returned to its normal pulsation. And suddenly, in the CT scan, the surgeon, doctor, cardiac scientists are saying, a miracle has occurred in this man's heart. I am calling out to the forces of the goddesses and gods in this moment of transformational challenge to create my Sri Lanka somewhere, perhaps I pray, in the lower Kula, Haiku, Makawau area of Maui, where I can co-create with you sisters who want to come and commune with me, and brothers and devas and entities and UFOs that are going to appear through the shared space of our own conscious atmosphere, or who knows, looking out from the side of the Haleakala volcano, we see in the stars forms of existence, and a billion trillion life forms on all those inhabitable planets. We wonder. We're out of the box. We're in the mystical. We're in the transformational field of Dhamma. Are you with me? I want to meditate out of the box with you. Come play in that sacred Sri Lankan field. Celestial music. It was so enchanting, but I grew accustomed to it, and eventually the silence was so remarkable. I felt for the first time in my young life, I had arrived at a place where I could live and breathe and die for the rest of my life. That's exactly how I feel right now. 1 month, maybe 2 months. I can't even think beyond the 3-month range. In breath, out breath. I'm craving a sustained safety to just sit and abide in the poetry of my own interiority. Cry with myself and with you. It is so radically challenging. It's not the fear of death. It's the emotionality of plane and the river, the currents of the existential. I can feel deep in my own metaphorical soul the interruption of habit pattern conditions, of delusional narratives that no longer serve. I can feel the mindfulness rooting itself in those cognitive areas of my inner mind. I want to know the secret things. I want to commune. I want to dance with the angel, not just the angel of death. Yes, I see you, but I don't want to participate with you at the moment right now. I want to resurrect the highest radiance of life and oxygen and peace and love and intimacy. I want to be in romance with nibbāna, with freedom. In-breath, out-breath, slowly walking without shoes, smelling flowers, picking mangoes, the romance of a dream come real. Yes, 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 yes. Do not fear that you cannot manifest that. I'm calling out inside and outside. My samsaric sangha, whomever you are, wherever you are, sisters and brothers, friends and family, daughter, you too, Sarabella, of course you, especially you. And even you, Aung San Suu Kyi, being held in the Orwellian tribunal somewhere in an undisclosed location, embarking upon a hunger strike to awaken like the monk in Saigon, immolating himself and setting the world on fire with the conscience of what the American imperialist regime was doing to the people of Vietnam in the ideology of so-called stopping communism in the name of freedom. Kill, 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 kill. I want to be away from that, but I don't want to separate myself from the understanding that I need to participate in it. But right now, Aung San Suu Kyi, we want to stand with you. We want to sit with you. We want to sit and stand in solidarity to all the freedom fighters in Burma. I want to go on a love strike, a hunger strike, a compassion strike, a freedom strike, a strike against totalitarianism. I want to join the war on consciousness and turn back the forces of totalitarianism. I will not give up on my fight for freedom and democracy, despite the fact I'm calling in my sacred Devas to participate in a month-long space, a co-creative exploration of consciousness to heal the aorta. I'm choosing, people are asking, this is one of the last times I'm going to be speaking too much or little about this thing. People are asking, what are you doing? I'm not choosing surgery right now. I'm choosing healing, Dhamma healing, the Dhamma cure, the luminosity of consciousness, inhabiting consciousness, in unfolding the folds of fear, of delusion. Thank you for being in my life today. Thank you for being in my life. I pray tomorrow. The days are few here. I'm still having to look ever so carefully. Today, a very amazingly complex, busy day. And there's so many little producing events of where and how and luggage and flights and where and cars and costs and rentals and packing and unpacking, if it's even possible. All I want to do is run to the nearest Sri Lankan island called the Polgastua, the island hermitage of my own soul. I'm craving a monastic setting, calling out to the world, please co-create, support with me a monastic creative setting somewhere, I pray, in Hawaii, on Maui, and if not, on Bali, if God willing. Yesterday I mentioned, and I will close here, just a few simple announcements. I don't really feel that I have much more to say about UFOs and deities and MEO and DMT and psychedelics and Devas and powers and multi-dimensionality and Dhamma and consciousness. I want to put energy into the manifestation of them as experiences. I really want to get from where I'm sitting right now as intimately and quickly as possible to the same place somewhere else. There's a bit of fear in me that it's really difficult to go from where I am to where I want to be. And it brings up issues of wanting to transition. It's very difficult to keep up the hope, to keep up the power, to keep up the courage that the future is something to pursue. I really am craving an eyes closed, heart open sensitivity to an awakening. And this island hermitage, just the sanctity. It was an island. No one could get there unless you rowed a boat and were invited and allowed on. Just you and the flowers and nature. Even the monks that were there didn't talk to one another. Just the safety of being with just your own mind and body and your breath. No rent, no car, no shopping, no phone, no text, no internet, no propaganda, no TV. That sublime silence where you could just hear things that you normally don't hear, feel things you normally don't feel, evolve things that you normally are not connected to. It brings you heart to heart to really what's important, what really matters to you. I tell myself, don't wait until you're on the cusp of dying. Co-create here in this moment, really sensitize, really drop in. I want to be in silence. I want to be in the sacred environment of Dhamma. So this is my SOS to those who may be listening. And if you wish to support me in my process, by any means, whatever it is, thank you from my heart for those who are showing up like that. You can contact me. You can support my life through Patreon or through PayPal on my website under support. I have a new book coming out. It's a poem that I wrote many years ago. A adult poem called A Deva Appeared to Me Last Night. It's a rhyming poem. It's been illustrated by a friend of mine. And I hope to have that out. Sort of my next best and perhaps final wish for the children in the world, how I really think and feel about what I want to leave behind. And if you are interested in joining me in this retreat, please reach out in any way that's important to you. Let me know. I hope to make some kind of announcement in the coming weeks for that to happen, but there's so much detail that's right now being worked out that it's a little bit overwhelming to consider. And I'm overly fatigued by a lot of these things, not able to sleep very well at all. So from my heart to yours, I think that's about it for today. I send you my very best wishes. Thank you for being in my life. Thank you for being in my heart. And thank you for your generous, loving support. Hope to see you tomorrow. Have a great day. And from my heart to yours, thank you.